Midday on a deserted island.
We're all gonna die here.
You're the one who popped the inflatable boat.
You were the one who thought we could make it to Hawaii on an inflatable boat.
Hey. It's gonna be fine. Let's all just work together and figure this out.
You do all realize we have absolutely no food here.
Well, here's a granola bar, but don't eat it now. I said don't eat it now.
I have an idea. Let's just swim to Hawaii.
No, that's a terrible idea. We just need to fix the boat and everything will be fine. I got us into this mess, so I will get us out of it.
No, that's a terrible idea.
All we have to do is collect a bunch of sticks and leaves and stuff, and we can make a boat. Then we can reinforce the boat with sand and seaweed. We just need to order a sail from Amazon and we're out of here and on our way to a Hawaii vacation in no time.
Sand will just make it sink and the seaweed will rip. Also, how do you expect to order a sail from Amazon? We have no cell reception.
What we really need to focus on is making a fire, finding fresh water and food, and building a shelter.
I agree, but we also need to patch the boat or we'll never get out of this place.
We need food. I haven't eaten since lunch.
We just need to build a house and get comfy because we are going to be stuck here forever.
If we want to solve this, we all need to work together and not speak all at once.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, let's chill out. I got this. I will fix the raft.
I'm telling you, if we find a monkey, he'll show us the island, and if we have a yellow hat, then he'll be our friend forever.
That only works if you live in a big city.
No, that doesn't work at all. I know animals. Anyway, I found this survival kit in my backpack.
I have one too.
That's a great idea. Let's use those.
No, we need to build a house.
No, we need
to fix the boat.
I'm
No, we need to-
confused, and I still haven't eaten anything.
Whoa. Let's stop that right there. How many of you have been to a meeting like this? How can anyone be productive with everyone talking over each other? If you want your meetings to run smoothly, then hi, my name is Rachel Aline, and allow me and my state officer team to introduce you to parliamentary procedure. You may be wondering, well, what is parliamentary procedure? To put it simply, parliamentary procedure is a set of rules and guidelines to allow for effective, fair, and efficient meetings. We'll be going over all the things you need to know in order to run your own meeting following parliamentary procedure. So come along with us in a simple guide to parliamentary procedure.
Hello, my name is Jackie, and I am the Vice President for Skills USA Minnesota this year. I'm just going to be talking about what you should do before a meeting for parliamentary procedure. So step one is to assign roles. Each person will have some sort of role within the meeting. Roles can vary from being a delegate all the way up to being the president or a member of the chair. Each role is as important as another. It's important to keep that in mind, as a lot of times a meeting won't run as smoothly if people don't acknowledge this. Make sure to make clear everyone knows who each role is and what each role constitutes of. So some example roles would be president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and chairperson, etc. Step two would be to create an agenda. Before the meeting, an agenda should be created with the general structure of what will be covered. This agenda should include the topic of what should be discussed along with some sort of time frame. So some sort of time frame would be anything that states what time you want to start a certain topic at, or what time you want to end a certain topic at, or how long you want to spend on that. By having some sort of time frame, it'll allow the meeting to keep moving forward and avoid the wasted time between transitions about, oh, what should we talk about next? How much time should we spend on this? Oh, I think it's getting too long. It avoids all those questions. The agenda is one of the most important components of the meeting, as it will be referred back for any confusion. Make sure your agenda is going to be clear, concise, and legible to all users. You're usually going to send out your agenda a little bit before the meeting so people can get an idea for what the meeting, how long it's going to last, and what you guys are going to talk about, and if they wanted to include anything. So what is on an agenda? So there are 10 main components of an agenda. The first is call to order, that would be starting the meeting. The second is roll call, if appropriate. Not all meetings will have this. Number 3 would be adoption of the agenda. Number 4 is approval of the minutes from the previous meetings. Number 5 is a report from all the officers. And this listed thing just means that was stated before that they would have some sort of report. You can't just show up and be like, I have a report. You have to submit that beforehand. Number 6 would be reports from the committees. Number 7 would be any unfinished business from that last meeting. Number 8 is any new business you wanted to introduce. Number 9 is announcements that need to be made. And number 10 is adjourning the meeting or ending it. Step 3, make sure to double check everything. Make sure all participants know when and where the meeting will take place. With the current nature of the world, this often will be some sort of Zoom call or some sort of video chat, something along those lines. But if it was in person, you'd want to include the address, the time, what time you should be there beforehand, what time the meeting will start, those little technicality questions. Address any questions regarding technicality well in advance of the meeting to avoid confusion. You don't want to be discussing meeting material, but rather those little tiny questions about where is it going to be, how do I get there, who's going to be there. So it's like those questions that don't really discuss the meeting, but are essential to know to be able to participate fully in that meeting. Are you ready for your meeting? So here's a checklist of everything that you'll need for your meeting beforehand. Before you announce or begin your meeting, make sure you can answer all these questions. Where is the meeting? When is the meeting? What is each person's role within that meeting? How long will that meeting last? Have you created an agenda with all parts of the meeting along with some sort of time frame? Did you send the agenda out to all the members? Is there any additional components you want to ensure that you'll have a successful meeting? This could be something like a PowerPoint, a Google slide, any kind of additional resource like that. For example, for this meeting, I'm using a Google slide.
Hi, I am Jackson Hensel. I'm the State Treasurer of Skills USA, Minnesota. And today, I'll be going over the start of a meeting in unfinished business according to Robert's Rules of Order. At the start of a meeting, you have the call to order, and the president will rap the gavel once and say the meeting will come to order. After that, you have opening ceremonies, which are optional for meetings. But for example of one, I am a member of Sons of the American Legion, and we say the Pledge of Allegiance before every meeting. After that, you have roll call. And with roll call, they record whoever is present at the meeting. And then after that, you have the reading and approval of minutes. And that will be read by the secretary. And when the secretary is done, he or she will ask if there is any corrections needed. And if there is none, the chair will say, "The minutes stand approved as read." If there are corrections needed, which is made by general consent of the people at the meeting, the chair will say, "The minutes stand approved as corrected." After that, you have reports of officers, boards, and committees. The chair will say, "The treasurer will now report." After their report, the chair will say, "Are there any questions on the treasurer's report?" If there is none, the chair says, "The report will be filed for an audit." Now we're on to unfinished business. And with unfinished business, it's any motion left undecided on from a previous meeting. And with those motions, they'll be recorded in the minutes and brought up at a different meeting later on.
Number 8 is new business. New business will be discussed in order of the agenda. So it'll be new business and then 1, 2, 3, 4, or something like that about what you're discussing. So additional components to this new business cannot be made until the agenda is amended, which would take a motion. So you'd have to go back and amend the agenda first. So that was step 3. You'd have to amend that so you could actually talk about it. And that would take a motion, which takes a seconding, but we'll go into that further in the presentation. Number 9 is any announcements listed on agenda. So those can be spoken at this moment, and those should be declared beforehand. Number 10 is the adjournment of the meeting. So every single meeting must have some sort of adjournment to end. A person will say, "Move to adjournment," with a seconding from another person. With a simple majority of vote, the meeting can be adjourned at any time. And then the gavel may be wrapped at this time. That's everything I have for you guys on what to do before a meeting and then the steps of a meeting.
Hi, my name is Sydney Dvorak, and I am the president of Skills USA Minnesota. And today I'm going to be talking to you about motions. So what is a motion? A motion is an item that someone can introduce at a meeting that'll be voted on by the voting members. So this could be sent in before the meeting, or it could be something that someone brings up during the meeting. Usually we prefer to have it sent before the meeting to give all the voters a chance to look over it. So how do you write a motion? The most important thing to remember when you write a motion is to be clear and straightforward in your wording. You want to make sure you really clearly identify what the purpose is, whether it'll cost money, and how long you expect it to take. So some key characteristics of a good motion are that it clearly identifies the time frame or the dates that you expect it to take place, the cost, the enforcement plan. It'll also address possible objections, so things that you think that people will want to change about it. And it's going to be very detailed and leave nothing for the voting members to guess on. Your goal is to convince everyone else that this motion needs to be voted on and ultimately needs to be put in place. So here's some steps on how to pass a motion. So this first step is to read the motion out loud. And this is going to be by whoever is presenting the motion. So they'll say, "I move," and then continue to describe the motion. The next step is that someone else has to second the motion for it to go any farther in the process. And this will be done by someone saying, "I second that motion." Once someone seconds that motion, that basically means they want to discuss it farther or they agree with it. The president is going to read the motion again for step 3, and they'll say, "The motion on the floor is," and basically just reread everything that was originally said to make sure that everyone who is voting knows what the issue on the floor is. So then step 4, once the motion has been reread, is discussion. So every member is going to get a chance to speak during this, but they only get one chance, so you have to make sure that you really use that well. And during the discussion, people can bring up amendments, and these are going to be discussed in our next section a little more. And then the last step, step 6, is going to be voting. So once all the discussion is over, all amendments are concluded, the president is going to call a vote. And if there's a majority, then the motion is going to be passed. And this vote doesn't have a specific way that it has to be done. You could do a voice vote, a hand vote, or you could even do something anonymously. So some other key things to know is that if something irrelevant to the discussion is brought up, the chair can rap their gavel once and say that they will return to that issue later. During this discussion, you really want to stay focused on the topic at hand and not get sidetracked by other issues that you may have to deal with. If it's believed that the vote is not accurately counted, which could happen in situations such as a voice vote, the vote can be taken in a different way. So instead of doing the voice vote, they could do raising hands or writing their vote on a piece of paper. And all of that is going to be organized by the chair. And that's all there is to a motion.
Hi, my name is Rachel O'Lean, and I'm the College Post-Secondary President of Minnesota Skills USA. I'm going to be going over amendments and adjournment. So how to make an amendment. If you would like to modify a main motion, you would move for an amendment during the discussion of the main motion. So for example, let's say our main motion is all members will wear red t-shirts to every meeting. And you would like to amend this motion by adding that the t-shirts be crew neck. So you would follow these steps to make an amendment. Step 1. During discussion, introduce the amendment. So you would say for our example, I move to amend the main motion by adding crew neck before t-shirts. Step 2. The amendment must be seconded by another person. They would say, I second that amendment. Step 3. The president reads the amended motion and opens it up to discussion. So for our example, they would read, all members will wear red crew neck t-shirts to every meeting. At this point, amendments can be made to the amended motion. So other people could add, like they wanted to wear blue jeans with it, they wanted to add other colors of t-shirts, but all of these amendments do not dismiss the original amendment. You would have to start again at step 1 and add to the amendment like steps on a staircase. That leads into step 4. All amendments must be voted on. Once all amendments have been made, they are voted on individually in last to first order. So say someone added the blue jeans one and then they added different colors of t-shirts, you would vote on the different colors of t-shirts, passes or fails. Then you would vote on the blue jeans one, passes or fails, and then you'd get back down to the original amendment, which was adding crew neck into the motion. Let's say all those other ones failed, but the crew neck one passed. Then it would become part of the main motion. The president would read, all members will wear crew neck t-shirts to every meeting, and finally that main motion is voted on. Up next is adjournment. Adjournment means to formally end a meeting, and here are 2 ways you can do it. At any point in the meeting, a motion to adjourn can be presented. As a privileged motion, it comes before any pending business. It must be seconded and then is immediately voted on. If the motion passes, then the meeting is adjourned and all unfinished business goes to the next meeting. Or, if the scheduled order of business has been completed or the time allotted for the meeting has passed, the president can declare the meeting adjourned. This requires no motion to be made. Now that you've learned all about parliamentary procedure, let's take another look at that initial meeting and see how it could have gone if they had used parliamentary procedure.
Okay, how are we going to get off this island? Are there any ideas?
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I move that we find food.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
The motion presented is we find food. Is there any discussion about this motion?
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I think that we should split up into groups so that we can get more done before it gets dark.
Is there any more discussion at this time?
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
yeah, that's a good idea. I move to amend the motion to read, we will send 3 people to find food.
Do I hear a second to that amendment?
I second.
All right, the floor is now open to discussion to amend the motion to read, we will send 3 people to find food.
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I think that's a great idea.
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I think it's a great idea too.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing as there's none, we'll move to vote on the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carried. The floor is now open for discussion on the amended motion. We will send 3 people to find food. Seeing as there's no further discussion about this motion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion, we will send 3 people to find food, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. So 3 people will go to find food. Is there any further business?
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I move that those remaining work on fixing the boat.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I think that we should focus on building shelter because we will need somewhere to sleep tonight when it gets dark.
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I agree with that. Plus, if we don't fix the boat now, we can use it in our shelter.
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I think that we should fix the boat because we can both use it for shelter tonight when it gets dark and use it to get home tomorrow.
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I agree. Fixing the boat sounds like a faster solution.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing as there is none, we'll move to a vote on the motion. Those remaining work on fixing the boat. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no.
No.
The ayes have it. Motion carried.
Mr. Chair,
The chair recognizes.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Wow, what a difference. You see how they got so much more accomplished and it was so much more organized than that first meeting? That's the power of parliamentary procedure. Last but not least, let's do a quick overview of everything we learned. Let's review. Before the meeting, assign roles, create an agenda, and double check that you and everyone attending the meeting has all of the correct information. During the meeting, you want to follow the steps, which are call to order, roll call, adoption or reading of the agenda, approval of minutes, reports from officers and committees, unfinished business, new business, announcements, and adjournment. Next, you want to make sure you have motions prepared, speak in turn, and be respectful to others. Some vocabulary that's helpful to know is parliamentary procedure, a set of rules to follow when conducting a meeting. Motion is an item introduced by a meeting member to be voted on by all members. And remember, motion is a noun, which is a thing, and move is a verb, which is something you can do. So you always say, I move, never I motion. A privileged motion is a motion that does not relate to the topic at hand, but has to do with a topic of urgency or importance that may interrupt anything else, such as the motion to adjourn. An amendment is a change to a main motion, and adjournment is the act of formally ending a meeting. And a quick do's and don'ts list to help you remember everything we've learned here. First, the do's. Number 1, do create an agenda. Number 2, do assign roles before the meeting. Number 3, do focus on one subject at a time. Number 4, do make a motion and rise before speaking. And number 5, do be respectful. On to the don'ts list. Number 1, don't speak out of turn, wait to be called on. Number 2, don't get distracted by other things. Number 3, don't argue. Number 4, don't interrupt others. And number 5, don't bring up another issue before finishing the issue at hand. With all that said, good luck on your next meeting. With parliamentary procedure, I'm sure it'll be great.